Imagine surviving Mount Sinai, seeing the fire of God fall from heaven, being officially ordained as a priest before the entire nation of Israel, and then dying minutes later inside the very temple, not for idolatry, not for open rebellion, but for something called strange fire. What was this fire? Why did God respond with immediate judgment? And what does this story reveal about holiness and worship? To understand what happened, we need to look at the context. Leviticus chapter 9 describes one of the most glorious moments in Israel's history. Aaron and his sons were being officially established as priests. They offered sacrifices exactly as the Lord commanded. Then something extraordinary happened. Leviticus 9:24 says, "Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the offering on the altar." The people saw it. They shouted. They fell face down. It was a public display of God's glory. But in the very next chapter, everything changes. Leviticus 10 begins with a shocking scene. Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, each took their censer, put fire in it, added incense, and offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, something he had not commanded. And fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. The most unsettling detail is this, which he had not commanded. The problem was not explicit idolatry. It was not denying God. It was approaching him in a way he had not authorized. The Hebrew phrase used is eshzara, meaning strange fire or foreign fire. The text does not explain exactly what they did wrong, but conservative scholars generally point to three possible explanations. First, they may have used fire that did not come from the sacred altar, which had already been sanctified by God. Second, they may have entered at an unauthorized time. Third, the immediate context suggests they may have been under the influence of wine, since right after this event, God forbids priests from drinking before entering the tabernacle. Regardless of the exact cause, the central issue is clear. They approach God on their own terms. Then comes one of the strongest statements in the Old Testament. Moses tells Aaron, "By those who come near me, I must be regarded as holy." God's holiness is not negotiable. The priesthood was not about creativity. It was about obedience. Nadab and Abihu were not ordinary priests. They had gone up Mount Sinai. They had seen God's glory. They had experienced divine revelation. The greater the revelation, the greater the responsibility. But why was the judgment so immediate? Because this was the first official day of the priesthood in Israel. When God inaugurates something new, he establishes his standards clearly. We see this pattern elsewhere in Scripture. Uzzah touches the ark and dies. Ananias and Sapphira lie at the beginning of the church and fall dead. At foundational moments, God makes it clear that his holiness cannot be treated casually. Then there is a powerful, silent detail. The text simply says, "And Aaron remained silent." No protest, no argument, no accusation against God. Silence before holiness. This story does not reveal an impulsive God. It reveals a holy God. It reminds us that worship is not entertainment. It is not emotional improvisation. It is not innovation disconnected from God's will. Hebrews 12:29 declares, "Our God is a consuming fire, the same God of Sinai, the same God of the tabernacle." The difference is that now we have a perfect high priest, Jesus Christ, who allows us to approach with confidence. But God's holiness has not changed. The fire that killed Nadab and Abihu was not just punishment, it was a warning. The real question is not only, what was strange fire? The real question is, are we ever approaching God in ways he has not commanded? Holiness is not optional. God is still worthy to be regarded as holy by those who come near him.